I can't hear you, man.
Oh,
there you go.
Hear me now?
Now I can.
Well, welcome everybody. We've got another great show planned for you today, and I hope that everybody's doing well. We'd like to welcome Pantea, Steve, and Linda. Bruce, Wonko the Sane. Welcome everybody. Please say hello in the chat. We're running that beta again, so we can actually see it this time. I had to put my magnifying glasses on though to see those little tiny letters.
Yeah, it's just just jibber jabber.
Exactly. So what's going on, man?
So let me set the scene. You're in a parking lot. This diagonal parking, right? None of this. You don't have to worry about the 90-degree, and you're pulling out of your space. Your bumper clears the car next to you, so you can make your turn. Mm-hmm. You're all the way into the lane. What on God's green earth makes you just pause there for a good 30 seconds before putting it in drive and going?
Safety.
I
don't know.
I
don't know. I have no idea.
That's my new. That's my not my newest, but
I was going to say that's your newest pet peeve. So we have a question already from Tig Lily, and it says, "So which one of you invented pegwood tail black?"
What does that even mean?
I have no idea what that means. But Sharon, I don't know what that means.
Yeah. This is it. But
yeah, that's it.
Because it's one if it's like narrow or they're worried about scraping the car. But when you're already like parallel with where you need to go and you're just pause, I'm just in the car screaming, just go.
Yeah, but see, you in the Tesla, you should have a little button that it says, I will kill you. Yeah, exactly. Fire rockets or something like that.
No, Bruce, it's a parking lot rage. It's totally different.
Yes, parking lot rage because the cops won't show up. Road rage, you can get arrested for. But speaking of autos and stuff like that, I've got some news. I can't give too many details yet, but we've got in July, towards the mid to end of July, we're going to have a brand new special guest. And I think you guys will enjoy it. It has a lot to do with the Southwest and what we do to our vehicles out here and about Jeeps and all kinds of stuff. So we will let you know.
So then what happened, Eric? Are you just like lost in like you're reading something or both hands are eating fries and you can't shift into drive? That one would make sense. I mean, if you don't want to get Whopper sauce on your jeans, then I understand.
Whopper sauce?
Whopper sauce, don't they? They got
mayonnaise, ketchup, and
mayonnaise
mustard.
Is Whopper sauce. Yeah. Well, plus the mayonnaise mix it with the ketchup, and that becomes Whopper sauce.
Whopper sauce, okay. Now they do have an onion ring sauce, the zesty onion ring sauce, and it is disgusting. But I find myself ordering it every time they have it.
Addictive. Yeah, Burger King's not big around here. Burger King, Wendy's. No.
What's the big one there?
McDonald's, In-N-Out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's the Arby's? There was one in the town next to us, and it closed up, and I couldn't tell you where the closest Arby's is.
Really? That's all we have. Well, up north of town, we've got Burger King, McDonald's, and Arby's. That's it for our fast food burger places. Although right down the street, we do have In-N-Out.
Look at these guys. Look at both Eric and Bruce. They're anarchists. That's what they are.
Well, no. Bruce is saying that if he knows someone is waiting, he'll pause a little bit longer.
Right.
Okay, but see, that's the beauty about having a Jeep with a 9-ton winch on the front of it. Just push them the hell out of the way. Just push them. Just push them out of the way.
So
plus, nobody does that here in Arizona because, as we discussed on our Zoom call the other night, 90% of the people that you piss off are probably armed, so it's not a good idea. I am drinking Pepsi Zero tonight in a mug.
Now, when you guys go, again, you just said that's just the way it is. I'm convinced there's something up with you becoming almost a teetotaler at this point.
No, I was drinking scotch last week on our show.
Right, but what was that? The first time in 2 months or something?
Yeah, a little bit.
See, which is fine. I'm just curious when you go camp on your trip? Is there going to be?
Oh yeah, there's going to be bourbon. There's going to be
bottles,
scotch and beer, bourbon, scotch and beer, probably more than likely, and some wine. We're saving that bottle of wine that you gave us for Christmas. We may take that with us.
Yeah, don't share with the kids; they won't appreciate it.
No. Hell no! It's too nice of a bottle of wine to share with kids. No way. I am drinking that, and then I am smoking my first cigar tonight. Is an Oliva V Milanio.
Hey, I'm cheapening it. Oliva G, the other end of the alphabet.
Oh yeah, Sharon's bringing margaritas. That's right.
How do you do?
And we just found out. Well, no, probably the pre-made stuff.
Oh,
probably But what we did find out, though, I found out today in the news that Tucson has been picked for the International Margarita Contest.
Woo!
I don't know when it's going to be yet, but
boy, that'll be worth going to.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I had one of those Margaritaville margarita machines where you put the ice in and crushes it. Used it one time. I tell you, when you want a margarita, you don't want to lug that. I mean, I guess if you're having a party or something, but crushed the ice so fine that it just watered things down.
Well, it becomes a what the heck? All Scary Games Hector Romero. That's cool. Yeah, so Sharon would be the judge. Sharon would be the judge.
Yeah.
But no, the thing is, like margaritas, it's like martinis. Okay. There's certain things that you like, certain things that you don't like. Like the margaritas that get all slushy and stuff like that. That's no, it's rocks. Okay. Well, we get the point. Then goodbye.
Yeah.
So the best way to have
we had our first spam guy. Yeah. We've never had that. Look how popular we are.
We are making it. Man. We are making it. No, I think that as far as the margaritas are concerned, some people like them frozen like that. But see, to me, frozen just like an icy, that is asking for brain freeze.
I was going to say, you can only drink it so fast because you're going to hurt your head.
But if you drink it on the rocks, you can slam those suckers down. And I don't like the
big
salt.
Straw, though.
Yeah, I don't like the salt. I like it without salt. But
the salt is weird because then you feel like a little kid. Like after the first drink, you have to stick your tongue out to get a taste of it, or keep turning the. It's just a game. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, but yet that drink that we both like from Vegas that we had all kinds of crap on it, and that was really good though. So,
kind of barbecue.
Yeah, exactly. So what are you drinking tonight, or what do you smell? You Oliva G, and what are you drinking?
Oliva G, and I finished off a bottle of barrel strength Pinhook bourbon to get rid of that one, and I've moved on. We'll see if we can finish off this. I've got mixed. have a mixed drink. So I have bourbon and now scotch.
That's true. So that is a mixed drink,
right? And this was a cask strength finished in a rye barrel.
Nice.
Which I didn't enjoy, but now we're down to the bottom of it. The taste has gotten better.
So are you trying to pretty much purge the bourbon out of warehouse 1s and 2?
Well, I'm not going to ever buy. Well, likely never buy anymore. Yeah, but anything that's open, I'm concentrating. I'm
that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
So you named our show backwards, I think.
False or true, or true or false?
No, the Stump the Barflies, because they're not going to stump us. We're supposed to try to stump them.
Yeah, so that's what it said. Stump the Barflies.
Oh, the Barfly. Okay, you're right. Carry on.
Yeah, so what we're going to do with the great popularity that we had with Linda's show last week, and Linda, again, happy birthday, and thank you for being such a great sport on that. We really enjoyed it. We decided what we're going to do tonight is Dave and I will give you either a true statement or a false statement of something we've either done, experienced, or something like that. And we're hoping that the Barflies, and we'll make it easy. You don't have to write anything because we know that you guys don't like to write a lot of stuff. It'll be a T for true, an F for false. And then we'll explain. And the first thing we'll do is the hosts will decide whether they think it's true or false. And then we'll take a vote and see how many people think it's true. Then once we do that, the person will explain whether it is true or false.
So two things. We have a lot of family in here that might know for certain whether they're true or false.
Well, that's okay. We'll drop the high and low scores.
Okay. And then as I pointed out, you were like, I don't know, in the Rangers or whatever the hell, jumping out of helicopters. You were a fireman. To top it all off, you sold insurance. So you got all the exciting stuff. So
yeah, but see, now you just gave away all my true stuff.
You've talked about that before.
Yeah, I know. So I like Eric. Eric's calling it all now lies, and Bruce is saying it's all true.
Well,
actually, my eyes are so bad. I thought he was putting the sign for titanium. So why don't you go first then?
All right.
So we'll let Dave make the statement. You guys either put T or F, and then we'll go from there.
I wrote these out, so I'll read them so they don't all sound like off the top of my head. We'll start with this one because I just came from work. So those of you that just read, I have several backgrounds I use for the cadre Zoom calls. One of them is a dog doing his business on a beach. I was late for a meeting at work and logged on without realizing that background was still on. It took a few seconds of fumbling to change it.
Okay, go ahead and vote now, Barflies. T or F?
So have you ever done that?
And in typical Barfly fashion, it's flying along. Oh, there it is. So we've got.
Have you ever done that? Logged into a call and not?
No, but I have taken a dump on the beach. Oh, I'm sorry. You were talking about something else. I'm sorry. Well, that
would be a great background.
So far, everyone is saying true. So I'm gonna buck that and say false, and here's why. I'm saying false because I don't think you ever do your Zoom calls from work because you leave that computer at home, nor would your IT department probably appreciate it. So that's my thing. So is it true or is it false?
It is false because, yes, I would not use my work computer for a Zoom call. And I also have accidentally put into the wrong chat versus a one-to-one chat into a meeting chat, a comment that wasn't meant for everybody and probably got read and deleted. So now I'm like super careful. Like before I join, I make sure the camera's off, the mic's off, the cover's on the camera, then we'll join.
Okay. So yeah, work stuff and stuff like that. So the Barflies are 0 for 1 right now. 0 for 1. So
I win.
Okay. You win. Yeah, you win that one. You win that one. Okay, I'll go. True or false?
Wait, you just did this. Are you making these all up on the fly?
They could be. They could not be. That's for you to determine.
Okay.
True or false? When I was in high school, I not only met the Beatles in person at a pizza shop near my high school, or I didn't. And that's Paul McCartney, John Lennon. I met them all. So go ahead and put that in there. True or false?
Well, first of all, I don't believe you were ever in high school. I think you were born in college. I think you born at 20.
Okay, so you can vote now. Yeah. So we have one false. False. False.
I'd like to know their reasoning. True. PB.
Any other votes before we reveal? And then Dave, you have the final say.
I'm probably wrong equating fame now with fame then, but I would say false because once they were here, they were so popular, they wouldn't just hang out at a pizza joint. They'd have been mobbed.
The story is true.
What?
Okay, so let me set up the background. Linda McCartney was doing her master's degree at the University of Arizona. there was a bar on 22nd Street called JoJo's, and you've heard the song JoJo had a bar in Tucson, Arizona. That's all true. They actually walked in there to get a drink one day and decided to play the joint. Hey, there he is. There's Joe from Rarity from Phoenix. He is going to be one of our guests, and I won't give too much information until we get closer to the show in July. So yes, anyways, it was true. Well, Paul McCartney owns a house on the east side of town, and the closest high school to his house is Saguaro High School. That's where I went to high school. Well, there is a place called New York Pizza that's off campus, and it's where all of us would go and smoke cigarettes because the owner said, as long as you buy pizza, I don't give a damn, you can smoke here. Well, one day, a group of friends and I were sitting in the pizza place, smoking, having pizza, and my friends were facing the door, and I was facing the counter. All of a sudden, all my friends' eyes got the biggest saucers, and they turned around, and I turned around, and it was Paul McCartney. Then John Lennon walked in. Then George Harrison walked in. Then Ringo Starr walked in. Well, as it turns out, the guy from New York Pizza knew these guys when he had met Paul McCartney one time when he got pizza for Linda. And he loved the pizza place, and he was a cool guy. He said, hey, guys, how you doing? You know, stuff like that. So we actually got to see him a few times.
Wow.
So this
was... if only they were better at music.
Yeah. Got P-Beat's right. It's 78, 79.
Well,
so that is a true story.
Did you ever get an autograph or anything?
Yeah, I got it here. So yeah,
got your cell phone and.
Well, we didn't have cell phones back then. Yeah. No, but but the thing is, one thing about Tucson is there's a lot of movie stars and people that live here, and they like Tucson because people don't, have that gaga moment. There's a lot like I think I told this once before. We used to have a bet on Friday nights when we'd go cruise Speedway in our hot rods. After midnight, everybody would throw a $5 bill in a pot, and if you could find Lee Marvin stumbling around drunk, you got to win the pot. So
they weren't the Beatles then.
Oh, Bruce, close enough. To me, they'll always be the Beatles. There's always some guy. There's always some guy.
Yeah, I don't know. He's lucky we let him in the.
Okay, so 0 for 2 on the Barfly so far. So
0 for 2.
Okay, so now it's your turn.
Okay, well, we have a timeshare in Hawaii, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the last time we were in Hawaii, I was walking on the beach with my head. It had just been stormy, so there's washing up a lot of stuff. So I was down there, head down, looking for seashells along the water line. And the water line kept going up and up and up. And I realized this was happening without me realizing, but I kept walking farther inshore. And all of a sudden I see this dude. I stop and I look, and there's this line of people. Turns out there's a wedding going on. And so I run in right to the end of the line of the groomsmen or whatever. Because, you're ever there in like you guys were, I think, white shirt and and linen pants. So I almost blended in with them. And the bride was pretty much at the end of the aisle. And so I'm like, and I go to back up, but the photographer had just moved back there to take pictures of the bride. So I had to stand in somebody's wedding for a few minutes until they were done with the photos and I could slowly back away.
Okay, Barflies, what do you think? Is that true or false? T or F? And while they're voting, just a reminder, Joe, Rarity, I'll give you a little bit more of a hint. This man takes four-wheel drive rock crawling to a new experience. And we're going to have him on the show to talk about some of that stuff. And
you just said you weren't going to tell him.
That's just a taste. That's just a little tiny taste of what Joe's going to talk about. Yeah. So just a little taste, All right. So far, Tig Lily says true. Steve says false. Bruce says false. Come on, PB, get your vote in.
Oh, see, they've already lost interest in this.
I know, that was quick. Really? Kiss the bride, yes. Okay, that's true.
The ultimate photo bomb.
Okay, I'm going to have to agree. I'm going to have to say that's true. Knowing you and your personality, I can see you doing that.
That's a pretty good story, but it never happened.
Very nice. You sold that well.
Thanks. Maybe none of these are true. Who knows?
No. We're honest people. Yeah, he does dumb stuff in the dirt, but it's so cool to watch. And to me, when I watch Joe when I watch Joe do some of the crazy rock crawling on some of the trail, because what people don't realize is southern Arizona, and even you could argue northern Arizona, aside from Moab, is probably got the best off-road Jeep trails on the planet.
Yeah,
In fact, one of the areas just north of us, Florence, where Joe was at recently, has got trails that just branch off everywhere. And there are all types of, where you could run over a $2 or a $2. Yeah, you could run over a $2 hooker, but that's a different story. You could, go over a.
You drive all the way to Vegas?
Yeah, you could drive over a 3-foot section of rock, or as you will see down the road, or you could walk up to a 30-foot wall of rock and climb your Jeep up it. So that's what we're going to be seeing. So it's really cool. Okay, here's one. When I was in the military, I fell out of an HH-60 while it was taxiing down the runway prior to takeoff.
Is that like a VW Beetle?
No, an HH-60 is just a rescue helicopter that we were in. So true or false? Did I fall out of a helicopter?
Wait a minute. I'll make up a story, Pee-wee. Hold on.
Okay, Bruce is saying true.
Helicopter.
Tig Lily is saying true. But while we're waiting on the vote, the reason why I watch Rarity and I watch Joe's videos is it brings me back to when I was young and when I had a Toyota Land Cruiser, and that Land Cruiser was it could do everything in my mind. And I broke a lot of stuff. Joe says that's the one most likely you'll see the Coast Guard. Yes, exactly. That's
they
the
fly
HH-60.
all over here all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, Dan is saying false, and Eric is saying it would explain a lot.
Okay, so wait a minute. So are they 0 for 3, the Barflies?
No, well, PB got 1. So
but in general, they're
0 for 3 so far.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I'm gonna say it's true, except you were pushed.
Wow.
I bet they were giving you hell.
No. Okay, in the HH-60, when you're going on a rescue, you have 2 door gunners, you have the combat rescue pilots, and you have another paramedic that's there. Well, half the time, you double as a door gunner. Well, on your gear, there is a clip, and that clip is to where you're on the door. If you're on the door gunning, when you go into a rescue situation, you can lean out the door and you don't fall out. Well, you're supposed to, and I blame my commander for this, because you're supposed to yell the word. You're supposed to yell the word cross check, and you're supposed to check everybody. That never happened, and and you're only taxiing before takeoff, a couple miles an hour, and I leaned out to check the gun, and I fell out and rolled into the tarmac.
All right, so all the people are like, I got one. I know, but we're taking your answer. The majority, right? That's what the Barfly's answer is for that question. Calm down. There's no prize.
Oh, and I should say, when we have Joe on, we'll have video and pictures, and we could make a coloring book, I guess.
They couldn't handle you. So they got that one. Majority of people answered true for that.
Well, but see, that's scary. That bothers me a little bit. So what they're basically saying is that this moron. Now I have to say that I was an airman first. I was an airman first class. So I was very early on in my career. I was green behind the ears, and that's the excuse I'm going to use.
Yeah. All right, but Bruce, you can keep your own score and let everybody know at the end. How's that? Okay.
But but the thing is, when Bruce,
beer night?
Yeah, Bruce is getting upset. But remember, Bruce also thinks that Star Trek, the original series, was the only series that the Next Generation wasn't good, even though the Next Generation ran for 9 years.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question though?
Absolutely.
Why the hell do helicopters taxi? They could, and then they're gone.
Well,
but
because
you see them going along.
Well, number one. Now, see, here's the beauty of this. So, of all the people here, my own wife says we think you're off balance. Now I know Pantea thinks that, but that's beside the point. No, because you have to follow what the ground, I mean, because there's other aircraft going along. So in other words, basically on a helicopter, it would be like Pedro 6-5, taxi short of runway 6. And then, once you're given a clear runway, then you can taxi and lift off. But other than that, you can't.
So, all right. Whatever.
Anyways.
All right. I'll go down my list here.
Okay. Your turn.
Let's see. So a lot of mine, I think, are based on traveling, actually, because that's the most exciting thing. So in Tahiti, I went on a boating excursion that included swimming with the sharks in the open ocean. The sharks kept swimming past, but then swimming away, and I got scolded by the tour guide for chasing them to get a good picture.
Barflies, what do you think?
There they go. So I swear.
They're thinking they're false. Bruce says
sometimes
false.
They're on the runway and they on the ground and then take off.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. You taxi and then you go. I thought you were talking about sharks are on the runway. I was going to say, what the hell kind of shark you been dealing with?
Well, I don't know. In the worst of times, I guess.
So P-Beat says that because you're from San Fran, yes, Alcatraz. Tiggly is saying true. Okay. I'm gonna have to say false. Because, and here's why. My explanation why.
Yeah.
I know you've done the traveling. I know you've swam with everything, but you don't even like hot sauce. So why would you go after a shark? I have to say false.
It is true.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah, we swam with lemon sharks. They said that they're friendly. They said that, but just don't touch them or anything. Just stand still. But I got frustrated. I had this underwater camera, and they kept going away. So I was behind them, kicking and the dude's like, "Hey, don't chase the sharks. That might make them mad. Like they're still." Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say they say they're friendly. Well, yeah, anything's friendly until you make it mad.
Yeah. So all right.
Wow, that's impressive.
I got some good pictures. I got some nice pictures of sharks.
That's impressive. I am very impressed with that. Wow. Okay, my turn.
All right, they got that one. More.
Yeah, they did. Almost everybody got that one. Let me think here.
Not Bruce. Can I point out Bruce got that one wrong?
I like what Eric says. It's all true except it was a kiddie pool filled with guppies. The mental picture that brings up is absolutely wonderful. Okay, when I was a little kid, my parents used to bowl. Okay,
false. You were never little.
Well, hold on. They bowled, and they have a nursery where all the little kids go into. Okay, and the babysitter gave me a Reed's butterscotch candy.
Okay.
Butterscotch candy.
Yeah.
I choked on that butterscotch candy.
Uh-huh.
The entire bowling alley shut down until the ambulance got there. And to this day, I cannot eat the Reed's butterscotch candy because it scares the hell out of me. True or false? Okay, Bruce says false.
I know it'd take too long to type and wait and all this stuff, but it'd be interesting again, like I said, to know their reasoning as well. But
Steven says true. Joe says true.
You don't like butterscotch. You don't like peppermint. We know that.
I don't like peppermint, but I don't know where PB got I don't like butterscotch. That story is true. That is true. Because
I didn't even answer.
Oh, well, what did you think? True or false?
I was going to say false because they're drinking beer. They don't care what's happening to you. No,
my dad was an MD, and it was bad because I guess it got lodged perfectly in the windpipe. Yeah. And what came down to is why are they giving a little kid a little kid? I was a toddler giving a big lifesaver type thing.
Well, because you didn't even have seatbelts back then. That was like, you made it through Darwin if you were a kid back then.
Exactly. So, yeah. So that is true. Yeah. Okay, your turn.
My turn. Okay. Let's see. My grandpa had given me a motorcycle when I was in high school, but before I had my driver's license. I ended up. Huh?
Start over again. I'm sorry. I phased out for a minute.
I'm sorry. Are you on a show or what's going? We're live, you know.
I phased out for a minute.
The co-host got bored with the show.
Yeah, I just phased out for a minute.
That's classic. My grandpa given me a motorcycle when I was in high school before I had a driver's license. I ended up running it off the road at 55 miles an hour. I totaled the motorcycle, cracked my helmet, but only broke my pinky.
Okay. Barflies, go ahead and vote. T or F?
Well, you've had a lot of motorcycles. How young or old were you when you got your first?
I was 16, I think. 16.
What about that age?
I like that. Stephen and Linda are recused. See, that makes me wonder now. Yeah, it's got to be true. It's got to be true.
Well, they would know what happened in high school.
That's got to be true. That's got to be true. And Joe says it sounds like something he did.
Yeah. So that is true. I had a road bike, and we go out by the high school out in the boonies, and because I didn't have a license, I just zip it up and down this road, and I guess mine had low pressure in the tire or something, and I think I was doing like 75, and it started to wobble, and I'm like, oh shit. All right, bonus points for Dan. And so I kind of like applying the brakes, but the wobble got worse. So it got down to 55 before it took off the road. And then of course I don't know what happened, but apparently it like cartwheeled and all this stuff and squished it in like this and cracked down my helmet and some road rash. But all that happened was a little break on the pinky.
I'll bet you your dad and mom said that would be the last time you were going to have a motorcycle.
I think they weren't happy that my dad rode motorcycles when he was in college and stuff. So. Yeah.
But yeah.
All right.
You're lucky. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're very lucky. Very lucky. Okay. When my very first 4-wheel drive was a Suzuki Samurai. You remember those?
Oh yeah. Didn't they all roll over?
Well,
everybody was yours.
It was like 5,900 brand new. Well, a friend of mine and I went out drinking one night, and back in the day, you could run the washes around Tucson. In other words, you could actually go into the washes and run them in your 4-wheel drive before the dust police got involved. Well, a friend of mine, Brian Leonard, went out, we're drinking, and we decided to go out in the wash. Now it's the middle of the night. Now, to Joe, Rarity, the nighttime thing will make a lot of sense. Now, it was a bone stock Suzuki Samurai, but it was a 4-wheel drive and it looked like a Jeep, which meant it could go everywhere. So we were driving down the wash. I don't know how fast we were going. And all of a sudden you're going along and you're bouncing. And all of a sudden there was nothing, no sound other than the revving of the engine.
Uh-oh.
Then we landed and there was a, and it turned out that it was a broken axle. True or false?
Now you mentioned the dust police. So do they say with like certain distance from town, you can't be bowling through the
you can't run the washes in town at all anymore. At all in Tucson.
Because it kicks up dust?
Because it kicks up dust. Yep. That's it.
Isn't there dust everywhere because you live in a desert?
Well, yeah, but that's beside the point. But wash running was one of the greatest things. It's a blast. So, what do you think?
TTTs. That sounds accurate, like a bunch of dumb kids would do and not even thinking. And yeah.
Well, and it is true. It is true. Number one, I would say that if I would have gotten pulled over by the cop, I would have blown a very, very easy bad. But the bad part about it was I snuck home, and my first wife got up the next morning because that was actually her car. And
that's the best part of the story.
Yeah, she went to start it, and she got about halfway down the road as this broken axle was doing. Yeah, needless to say that that didn't end well for me. So, anyways.
Okay, I got another travel one for you.
Okay.
And I think we've talked about this trip on here somewhat. I don't remember, was it this or the Zoom? Anyway, on our when we did our cruise to Iceland, it was during that time of the that big eruption.
Mm-hmm.
And when the excursions took us, they drove as close as they could. But there's no road that went right there. Stopped at a parking lot, and we had to hike in about half a mile to get close to the volcano. When we were hiking up to a viewpoint, the wind shifted, and a hot ember landed on my shoe. And to this day, I have a little burn in between two toes from the Icelandic volcano.
Okay, everybody, go ahead and vote. This one's a toughie for me. And where is this little burn mark?
Between two, it burned through my shoe.
Okay,
between two toes.
All right. I'm gonna have to say false.
Well, look at him. False, true. Oh, yeah, it never happened.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Because the ember to fly that far, yeah, just no. And besides, when you were in Iceland, none of the volcanoes were going off, I don't think.
No, they were. Some people actually did hired a car to get them. I think they had to hike 2 miles to see the thing, but
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Along those same lines,
mm-hmm.
when Sharon and I got married, we got married on the Big Island, Hawaii. Now, you may know this story, but I'm not sure if you do or not. Kilauea had been erupting consistently since the 80s.
Is that the one that goes in the ocean?
No. Well, yeah. Oh. I mean, it's all part of that same volcano. And the day we landed, the volcano stopped. I mean, not just stopped, it literally just shut off. We were there for an entire week and a half. Nothing. In fact, we walked up to where the lava flow was, and the rangers were even saying, we don't get it. You can't even see the glow from the volcano anymore. And so we were bummed out. So we get on a plane to come home. We land. On the news that night, Kilauea has one of the most incredible eruptions that it's ever had. True or false?
So Tig-Lily is either trying to throw off the scent or doesn't understand the game.
And she was there.
And she was there. True. We're going to throw out Tig's true. I'm going to say true, except the funnier answer would be false. You don't have the money it would cost to turn off the volcano for your wedding.
No. It is true.
True. Yeah.
It is true. So we have formed a small LLC that nobody knows about, although we haven't gotten any calls on it because, like, right. For instance, Mount Etna just erupted in Sicily. All they would have had done is call us, pay our airfare. We would have landed. The volcano would have shut off.
Yeah, you need a new PR company, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't want that?
Yeah, we're calling it volcano abatement.
Nice. Yeah.
So.
Okay,
your turn.
I think I have two left here. Okay. Another travel one. This time it's a jet ski excursion. We were stopping in the ocean, and I let go of the throttle to stop with the group, but I was going pretty quick, and I realized that I was drifting quickly right into the side of another jet ski with a couple on it. So I panicked because I first forgot you can't steer if you got no engine going, because I was doing like this and nothing was happening. So then I hit the throttle, but forgot you had to shift it into reverse first. So I smacked right into the woman that was sitting on the back of the jet ski. And then later I found out that they were on the honeymoon, and she had a huge bruise on her thigh for the rest of the trip. You like the details in that one, Dave?
That one was, almost too much. I'm going to have to say false, but let's see what everybody else says.
Tig's got a true.
I think everybody's contemplating this one.
Drunk in the bar.
So Bruce says false.
Bruce says false.
False, but it happened to someone else.
I like this thought. False. Yeah, we often,
travel with the Thatchers. Yes,
the Thatchers. Those Thatchers are party animals. I tell you what, it is true.
Wow.
Yeah,
you're lucky. You're lucky you didn't get sued.
Yeah, this was again in Tahiti, and I didn't know what else to do. Say, oh, sorry, the rubber bumper on the front of the thing, and we were all at the same resort, and everybody there's honeymooning. And the next day, I felt so bad because she had this big, huge bruise on her thigh from the jet ski.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's. I'm trying not to laugh, but it sounds so funny.
Those stupid things you're doing like this, and they don't steer if they got no.
But see, there's a theme here. Mm-hmm. You should not be allowed in the ocean. And not only that, but how big was her husband? Yeah, there's a good point.
There's a good point. That big, luckily, yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's an interesting one. Okay, here's one for you. At one point, as you know, some people don't know, some people do know, I drove a semi, and I drove hazardous materials, specifically sulfuric acid. And there's a thing where you go to the mines and you do what they call implants. And what you do is you take acid, because what the acid is used for in a copper mine is the acid. They have sprinklers, huge sprinklers with 92 and 99% sulfuric acid. They spray it onto the rock. It leaches down through the rock, and the copper actually sticks to the molecules of the sulfuric acid. They take it down into a pool. They electrify the pool, and that's how you have the cathodes, and that's what you get copper from. Well, we were doing implants.
That does not sound environmentally friendly at all.
It's a mine. It's a mine. What do you expect? So anyhow, we were doing implants, and when you're hauling acid, you've got a top tanker, and you have to don a complete hazmat, almost a full hazmat suit, but it's very hot in the middle of summer. Okay, so many of us would not do that. We'd put on our coveralls, but we wouldn't put on our face shield or our helmet because it was too damn hot, and we would fill up, 70,000 gallons worth of sulfuric acid and take it to the other place. Well, I got to the implant, and it was called the Big Bird, and the downspout was up. The downspout was up, and I got there, and I was like, God, it's too hot. But you know what? Something's telling me I need to put my face shield on. So I put my face shield, my helmet on. As I lowered the boom, which is supposed to be empty, there was 75 gallons of sulfuric acid. It hit the top of my tank and sprayed up all over me. And it actually went into my sleeves and everything else. So here's the interesting part. At the same time that happened, Tig Lily felt a sizzling sensation, and she was in the house. She was here.
Was she cooking pizza?
I don't know. So is that true or is that false?
Wait, the whole thing, or that she felt something when
the whole thing, the whole thing, the whole thing. So vote now. And a question mark does not count for true or false, Bruce.
He's asking, you took acid? That's where the story was headed. Oh, look, there's the reasoning there. You're military, you wouldn't disobey. But he's saying he did wear the hazmat.
No, I know what he's saying. Oh. Right.
Yeah. He's tripping on acid. He was tripping on acid.
Okay. What do you think?
Boy, I want to say true, but I would have thought that we had Zoom calls with somebody else that carried hazmat, and I never remembered you saying this story. Mm-hmm. You probably would have told him. So I'm going to say false.
No, it is true. In fact, you might be able to see that.
Yeah.
That is sulfuric acid. And what happened is OSHA, or MSHA rather, the mine safety guys, they had been working on it and they certified it as being okay. Well, the technician had left the line charged, which he was not supposed to do. So I went up there, and like I said, the hazmat stuff, PB, most of the time when it was 110 degrees outside at night, because we were working midnights, we didn't put our helmets and our face shield on. We just didn't.
Yeah, because ain't nobody watching.
Exactly.
That means you can't get hurt.
But something told me to put it on that night. And if it wouldn't, because it hit the top of the tank and splashed all over the face shield, and it went up my sleeve. And that sizzling at the time, this is the weird part. At the time that it happened, Sharon knew. She was waiting for the phone because she felt something sizzling. And that was my skin.
Crazy.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's true. So you had no cooling in those things.
No, because it was basically a neoprene suit, which, neoprene in Arizona in the summer go really well together, and a face shield and a respirator that wrapped around and stuff like that. And,
that's funny.
So yeah, that's true. And we ended up actually suing. We sued the mine. And we won, but what's cool though is the scars don't show as much as they used to. But at one point, I had the entire map of all the Hawaiian Islands. That's how you
sued burned. Because that ruined your modeling career.
Yeah. No, I would like to say that's what ruined it, but no, there was other things called genetics. So all right, let's have another one, Dave.
All right, well, take your time. It's my last one.
Okay.
All right. So one of my jobs when I was in college was working in the business office. And, I'm not as old as you, but back then email was just...
Wait a minute. Wait.
Is that true or false? I'm not as old as you.
Well, no, that's true. But
okay,
does that have anything to do with the story? Because
yes.
Look at this. I look so much younger.
So if the next part of that sentence is... And email was just starting to be used. So if you recall, like computers were kind of everywhere, but just, the old green screens and all that stuff. So my buddy and I that were in the office would send each other like joke emails back and forth because email was kind of, new and exciting, I guess, whatever. So I sent him an email saying that I resign and I've always hated this job, something like that. I don't remember what it said, but instead of to him, because it was such a clunky system, I ended up sending it to the entire department listserv. And very quickly, my boss at the time processed my resignation and I ended up quitting my job off a joke. Who is this character?
I would have to agree with Bruce on that one. I think that one's false. I think that one's false. So we'll see what everybody else says.
They're like this bit's run its course.
Well, wait. You know what? We sit there and we say that all of our bits and all of our shows have run their course, but we have one thing we need to say. If you guys want a different subject matter, you have to email us.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have a guest when you get back from your trip. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As of right now, we're looking. I talked to Joe today, and I think we're going to probably sometime around when I get back from vacation, somewhere in July, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm not sure if he'll have his buddy Greg.
Let's hear more about you pretending to look younger than me. I want to hear more about
that. Dude, there's no pretending with this moneymaker. I mean, come on. There's no pretending. I was given good genes.
Yeah, but they say Jordache on the back.
Hey, you know what? I wore Jordache jeans. I got nothing to say that I'm not ashamed of that.
Yeah, that never happened. And you know what's funny is all these made up ones. I was super busy at work the last 2 days, and I'm like, I don't have time to sit here and do it. So I used our Copilot is the Microsoft version of Chat GPT. I'm like, give me some scenarios for is it true or not for yeah.
Wow. Wow.
No, except for that volcano one. I made that all up on my own. Were you impressed?
That was pretty. I was going to say that was pretty good. So it's funny, as I've gotten to know Joe a little bit more, we've got a lot in common. He's a former Marine. He was a firefighter, just like my wife and I were, and so that's going to be really cool. Okay, so here, I just ruined the one I was going to use. Never mind. I just ruined the one because I said what Sharon did. Yeah. Let me think here for a minute. Okay. When I was 16, I got my driver's license, and I had saved up money at a job that I lied about my age about to get a car. So I had a 1966 Mustang. And yes, I regret the fact that I ever sold that car. But aside from that, so my first night out in the car, there I am. My first night out in the car, we were cruising Speedway, which is our local cruising space, and I got into a couple races with this guy. Well, at the very end of our strip, there's another 3-mile length, and we started racing. True or false? Did I get a ticket for exhibition of speed doing 108 miles an hour? True or false?
Well, we know you got one for what? Doing 38.
Okay. With all due respect to Facebook here, I've got to say that fat bastard that gave me the ticket in Vegas. And the thing is, what's bad, and this is for Joe, because Joe hasn't heard this story, is the fact that you were sitting in the back of the car in Vegas filming me getting a ticket and laughing your butt off.
You keep changing the story. I only took pictures of him back at the motorcycle while I was writing the ticket. You're already going to get the ticket.
But no, because he heard you guys laughing, and then he walked back.
Yeah, but
then he walked back to the motorcycle, and then he comes up and goes, "Yeah, we're going to give you a ticket for 45 and a 25."
No, but it was what, 28 and a 25 or so. I mean, it was like super picky.
It was $170 ticket. So
yeah.
So anyways,
say thank you.
So everybody
says true. I'm going to say true unless the false part is you're going even faster than that.
No, it was true. It was true. In fact, when I went, because I was given 8 points, exhibition of speed, which in Arizona, 8 points, you immediately lose your license immediately for 90 days. So then you go to the judge, and the judge can decide on it whether he wants to give you more money or take more money. Well, he looked at me and he said, "Son, you just got your license. We have to make an example of you."
Oof.
And that was it.
It seems to be the track history you have with the cops.
Yeah, apparently I'm a
look at that guy. No leniency.
Yeah, it's just it's crazy. So
how many speeding tickets have you had, Dave, in your life?
That was actually, believe it or not, that was that and the Vegas one are really the only ones I've ever had.
Yeah, okay.
Seriously. Yeah, those are the only ones I ever had. Well, wait a minute. Going back to why I love watching Joe's YouTube channel. And just so you guys know, his YouTube channel is Rarity09, Rarity Lost in the Desert. So do him a favor, because he's going to be one of our guests. Check out his channel on YouTube. We'd certainly appreciate it. It's a fun, he 4-wheel drives with a bunch of different people, but there's 3 people that he's always with. It's him, Greg, and Greg's wife, Alicia. Now, Alicia has a laugh that will just make you start laughing. It's just great. And, but it's just a fun channel to watch because of some of the things they get into. And it brings back memories of when I had more sense. But to talk about the cops, yes, there was a scenario where I was up on Mount Lemmon, which is our local ski resort. And I was in my Toyota Land Cruiser FJ40, which was more or less like a Jeep. And I went up one of these mountain roads, Mount Bigelow, which was it wasn't a county maintained road. And I got stuck. A guy tried to winch me out, but he didn't really know what he was doing. And I was young. I didn't know what I was doing. And he ripped my bumper off. So I was stuck.
The sheriff to your bumper?
Well, yeah. I mean, back in the day, it was very, very cowboy-esque. So anyhow, a sheriff came by in this beautiful Suburban. I mean, I'm not a Suburban, but a K5 Blazer. You know, these things are just go anywhere. And he pulled up and I said, "Hey, can you help me out?" And he goes, "Nope." And he drove off. And that was it. Nope. And he drove off. And needless to say, I had to call a buddy of mine, and he pulled me out. And so that's why I enjoy Joe's videos so much because it reminds me of
the good
things I used to do. Yeah, exactly. So, any other stories that are true that we wouldn't believe are true?
No, I don't. I can't. I don't know.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed tonight's kind of impromptu show. I came up with this idea this morning, but that's the way we roll. I mean, we're professionals.
At least we had an idea. I mean, that's kind of unusual. I mean,
yeah, because
despite you losing focus halfway through the show,
and you know what? We didn't talk about food. That's a rarity. Oh, sorry, Joe. I didn't mean to use the pun. Yeah, that's normally we talk about food at some point.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. But anyhow, just real quickly, guys, for the next couple of weeks, we're going to have a show next week. And then after that, we're not sure because we're going on an adventure.
Tuned.
Yeah, we're going on an adventure to Yellowstone, Moab, Grand Tetons, Monument Valley and stuff like that. And we did get the Starlink. So we're going to see if Starlink works in the remote areas. And I also bought the little thing that actually, believe it or not, I can attach it to the Jeep now, the antenna. So that might be fun when we go out on the trail because we can actually do live stuff on the trail. And that was something I was going to also talk to Joe about. That'd be kind of fun. But anyhow, we're going to have Joe in sometime in July to talk about the four-wheeling, a little bit more about him, how he got to Arizona and stuff like that.
What he drinks while he's driving off-road.
Exactly. Of course.
Right. Yeah.
Of course. But the one thing that I gotta say for Joe right now, and the reason why we want to bring him on the show is the one thing that he does, he'll take people out that have never done rock crawling and stuff like that. And there's a place called Poppin' Cherries that is a fairly mellow. It's a fairly mellow four-wheel drive area. I mean, well, mellow for most. And he will teach people how to go through rock because there's a line. You have to follow a line to get up certain rocks. Because if you don't follow the right line, you fall into stuff or you break stuff.
Right.
Exactly. You break stuff. And so that's one of the things that out of all the four-wheel drive people that I follow, the one thing that Joe does really, really well is he explains what he's doing, how is he doing it. And then literally Greg, his partner in crime, it is the perfect comedy team. It's so funny. I'll share a story where they were going up something, and for whatever reason, the one thing that you do is you say, like, if you want somebody to turn their wheel to the right, you don't say that because to their idea, right could be different. So you say passenger or you say driver. And there was this one video, and I'll see if I can find pieces of it, that said, driver, no, your other driver. And then the next thing that Joe said, he goes, your directions suck. I mean, it was comedy gold. And that's what I love about Watch. So we'll have him on the show. We'll have a lot of fun with that, probably the middle of July. I think that's about it, Dave. And Barflies, you have any other questions or anything before we get started?
Bruce, I stopped keeping track when Bruce got lippy, but I think he's right. I think they started hitting the answers on the money, and so I think they're probably better than 50-50.
Oh, that was good when Bruce got lippy. I haven't heard that in ages. So actually, you know what? You are younger than me chronologically, but you might be older than me in the other realm. But see, that's why
my grouchy level's higher.
No, I think my grouch. Well, if you ask Tiglily, I've got the grouch complete. Captain Dyslexia. But no, that's why I don't have my handlebar mustache anymore or my goatee because it would be white.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm looking at myself on camera. I wish it would just go all white. I think it would look better all white rather than whatever the hell this is. Because I see it used to be white here and all dark here, and now there's white here and down here and dark on the.
Well, you could always bleach. You could always bleach it.
I don't want to be. That sounds high maintenance.
No, not really. You can come to the shop. I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you for free.
Pour some bleach on my face?
No. There's a specific thing that you do and stuff like that. So, anyways, I think that was a good show, Dave. What do you think?
Yeah, that was all right.
Put the little thingy up.
Okay.
So just a reminder to everybody, if you have any show ideas, please email us at drinksanddaves@gmail.com for a future stream. Again, don't forget to check out Rarity Lost in the Desert. And we'll have him on a future show as soon as we can get going. And Joe, I'd like to thank you for showing up because, well, the thing is, I should say he wants to be on the show, but after watching this show, he may look at us and say, pass.
Well, you know what's cool is you ran across him. He's going to be on. My parents ran across somebody I'll tell the story about later. I mentioned it to you that I'll reach out to be a guest. So it's just like if you have somebody that has an interesting hobby or whatever, you say, hey, I got this show that might like to have you on.
Yeah, exactly. And if they don't mind, ruining their reputation while they're on our show, then fine. Right. I mean, it's not a big deal.
You can't be too proud.
So anyhow, thanks everybody. Don't forget to join us next Tuesday night at 5 p.m. Pacific. We don't know exactly what we're going to be talking about, but if you email us an idea, we might do that.
We might.
So anyhow, thanks everybody, and we will see you next week. Say goodnight, Dave.
Night, Dave.
Take care, everybody.